Hey, how's it going, everyone? It's Ben Foggins Media Corner back again with a brand new video for today. Welcome back to the movie review, aka After I Saw review video for today. For this new aka After I Saw review video for today, this is going to be my review on the film that came out this year for 2022, which this movie, unfortunately, is not a theatrical release film because this movie is a streaming service film. And this was released in October this year, and this movie was released on Hulu in the US, while in the UK this was released on multiple different streaming services. And I didn't even know when I was going to check this one out because I had work, and I was also seeing some new releases around the time this was released. And but last week I finally managed to check out this film, and so I'm here to give you guys my personal opinion on what I watched last week. So here we go. Today's review is going to be my review on the 2022 supernatural horror film, and this is the reboot to this franchise while also being the 11th installment to this franchise that was created back in 1987, and that movie is Hellraiser. Now, like I said, this is a reboot to the Hellraiser franchise, which, like I said, was created back in '87, and this is directed by David Bruckner, who made The Night House, which I really enjoyed that film, and if you guys want to know what I thought of that film, I much appreciate check out my views on my channel. So now he's made a new Hellraiser film, which, like I said, this one is a reboot. And so in this reboot to Hellraiser, we follow this young woman named Riley, which she's having problems with her own because she's a drug addict and she can't control herself and all that for the choices she's doing. And it's also kind of affecting her brother because for her brother, he's struggling to basically like take care of her and all that because of the choices she makes. So he ends up kicking her out. And later on in the film, we see Riley and her boyfriend. They find this mysterious puzzle box, which, of course, if you've seen the Hellraiser films, it's that puzzle box itself. And once she opens it, of course, unleashes supernatural forces, which are the Cenobites. And what ends up happening to Riley's brother, he's gone missing. And of course, it's basically up to Riley to basically confront these supernatural beings, and also trying to find her missing brother. And also in the film, we encounter the new version of Pinhead the Priest, which in this reboot, it's a female version of that character. And in this movie, she's portrayed by Jamie Clayton. So that's pretty much the plot synopsis for the Hellraiser reboot. Now, I never really watched any of the Hellraiser movies before when I was starting into my film days, when I was checking out horror films and all that, but once I heard we were getting a reboot to this franchise, I was like, I have to give this franchise a go before checking this new one out. So I did watch the original film in preparation for this, and after watching the original, I could definitely agree with everyone. It's definitely a great horror film. And for the character of Pinhead, I could definitely say that character has definitely become an icon to the horror industry, next to other iconic horror villains we've been introduced in the horror genre. You know, like Freddy Krueger or Michael Myers or anyone else really. And after watching the original, I've heard there was a bunch of sequels to the original film, which, from what I've read, the sequels were actually direct-to-video, which was kind of surprising because the original was theatrical release and the sequels were direct-to-video. And I decided not to check out the sequels because, from what I've heard, a lot of people didn't like the sequels, so I skipped those movies entirely and all that. And after I found out this new Hellraiser movie was a reboot, it was also kind of like a sequel as well. And to me, it just kind of reminded me of like the most recent like horror reboot sequels we've gotten over the last few years, like say Halloween, Candyman, Scream, and Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Which, out of all four of those movies, I enjoyed three of them, which were Halloween, Candyman, and Scream. The only one I didn't like was Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which that movie I thought was just terrible. And I've reviewed those movies. Well, I haven't reviewed Halloween though, but if you want to know what I thought of those movies, I would much appreciate check out my views on my channel. So, and like I said, this movie was released on Hulu in the US in October this year, and this movie was released on a few streaming services in the UK. And I didn't even know when I was going to check this one out because again, like I had work and I was checking out some other releases at the time. But for last week, which I had nothing much planned, I decided to watch this film at home just last week, like I said. And after watching this reboot, I can definitely say this movie can definitely fall into the good side of the most recent horror reboot sequels we've gotten over the last few years, because I surprisingly had a great time with this reboot. What really surprised me with this reboot is that I actually did find myself digging with these characters throughout this whole movie. Mostly the main protagonist in the film, Riley, which I actually found the character quite interesting while I was watching this movie because for a character, she's gone through a lot and she's really struggling and all that since she's a drug addict. And for this actress in this movie, for her performance, I thought she was pretty good in the movie. And as for everyone else, I thought they all gave good, solid performances. And as for this new version of Pinhead the Priest, which, like I said, this is a female version who's portrayed by Jamie Clayton, I thought her acting was great in this movie. And I liked how this movie managed to stay pretty faithful to the original film, because from what I've heard, the sequels don't really stay really faithful to the original, because, you know, for the original, it's well known for being pretty psychological and pretty disturbing and all that, since it's a body horror film. The sequels didn't really follow that, because those sequels mostly went for the gory stuff and all that. In this film, it manages to have some psychologicalness and pretty disturbing gory stuff here, and the director did a great job on handling all that here, instead of being just like what the sequels were and all that. And for the directed moments where it has psychologicalness in this film, I thought they were directed pretty well by David Bruckner. And when it gets to its disturbing, gory stuff here in this film, I thought they were pretty well directed. When we get to see like what the Cenobites do and all that, and what happens to the characters in the film, those scenes were directed pretty well. And I can say it probably will disturb disturb the viewers at home and all that. If they don't have the stomach to it, they'll probably feel physically sick and all that. For me, while I was watching those moments, it didn't disturb me that much, and it didn't make me very uncomfortable and all that. Like I just wanted to vomit in my mouth or anything like that. And speaking of like faithfulness to the original film, there were some key moments in the film where it tries to be faithful to the original film, which I kind of wish they could have been improved a lot more better in this film. That's one of the issues I do have with this reboot. And another issue I do have with this reboot is that it's a tad too long, because this film is only 2 hours, which I kind of felt like the runtime wasn't that worthy enough to basically have myself sort of having a good, disturbing time with this one. But in the end, guys, this Hellraiser reboot was surprisingly a great hit here. And like I said, I can definitely say this one can definitely fall into, next to the other, the most recent horror reboot and sequels we've gotten over the last few years, alongside with Halloween, Candyman, and Scream and all that. And if you're a fan of this franchise or anything like that, like I said, this is available to stream on Hulu in the US, but for those in the UK, it is available to stream on any app of your choice. So that's pretty much all I have to say about this Hellraiser reboot, other than this was surprisingly a great hit here. I'm going to give Hellraiser 2022 4 out of 5. Yep, surprisingly deserves this rating, because I went in thinking this was going to be a good watch myself. But after watching this whole thing, I surprisingly had a great time with this, because I was surprised myself digging with this one like I was digging with the characters, and I liked how this one managed to stay pretty faithful to the original film. And luckily this one is not any of the sequels, because from what I've heard, the sequels aren't really faithful to the original film and all of that. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching my AK After I Saw review on Hellraiser 2022, and let me know what you think of this reboot. If you've seen this already, if you just recently checked out this reboot, did you have a great time with this, or are you very disappointed with this? As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and this has been Faison's Media Corner signing off.